All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
Coming to you this week. This is week 24. And Jake, what's it called?
This is Vayiqra.
And it means called.
Called, right. Vayiqra called, Matt.
Yes.
And they're looking for some Leviticus 1 through 5:26.
Well, I know where you can find it.
Okay.
So, and this is kind of like rules and regulations. So here we go.
So this is our high-end, high-view Torah Portion
That's right.
situation here.
So we hope to point you to the Word. And so if there are things here you haven't looked up before, we encourage you to read the Word. Don't take our word for it. Take His word for it.
Take the word for it.
So in this, this particular scripture, He wants us to be in His presence. To do that, we got to put some effort into it. And we need to desire to pursue Him and follow His ways.
Yeah, I think this is going to go into a bunch of different sacrificial commands and stuff like that. And so do you think there was a lot of effort that went into preparing and offering these things?
It was a lot of work, a lot of physical work. It was hard, sweaty, bloody. It was tough work.
Yeah.
So, and it was a commitment on everyone's part to remember what to do, and then
that always strikes me as how much there would be to remember, how much kind of responsibility was on there.
Yeah, you almost need, like the way the quarterbacks have this sleeve that they wear on their arm sometimes with all these play calls. And
right.
Like, oh, okay, this happened. Okay, that's a sin offering. And I got to do this. And I can use this and this. Okay, got it. So they would have loved to have had that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if they came back today, they would look at that and go, oh, that's genius.
Why didn't we do that? Yeah. Why didn't we write on some rocks, all that
and wear it on our wrist? So you hear through this section, you're going to, in the next few weeks, through Leviticus, you hear us talk a lot about burning up our thoughts, burning up your heart, your emotion, transferring. And so, and then also had transferring the sin, like sharing burdens. In 1 Timothy 5:22, it talks about sharing one another's burdens. So, Jake, you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's, everyone's kind of involved in that those offerings and stuff. I mean, the whole congregation, the whole church, the whole assembly is involved in, knowing what they would have to bring an offering for, even because, I mean, the priest can't be everywhere at once. And it was kind of incumbent upon you, once you realized certain things, like in the case of a sin offering, once you realize, then it's up to you to bring an offering.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So everyone had to kind of be on the same page and help each other out with, doing it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that, people did ask, hey, what do you do here? They had to. And
which kind of,
the priests got asked that a lot.
Yeah. That kind of goes into, and I know this isn't really the topic for today, but it's something we talk about a lot on this channel, is the whole idea of, the law being they had to keep it, or brought about cursing, right? So were they allowed to mess up?
Sure.
Yes, because everyone did mess up. Everyone does mess up, right? No one was sinless, so everyone did have, stumble in this walk. But were they cursed for the stumbles? No, that's not the point, right? The point is, don't rebel.
Yeah.
So I just think that's important to throw in there too.
Oh, for sure. And the types of sacrifice. So, one of the types is a burnt offering. Typically, the burnt offering, the grain offering, and the peace offering were considered voluntary. And the burnt offering was for sin, complete surrender, devotion, and commitment. Often a bull, ram, a goat, a dove, or pigeon were used.
Right. So when you say for sin and complete surrender and devotion, it's like, and those things. It would be an offering for sin, and it could be an offering for, devotion or commitment and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Kind of seemed to be kind of a general category, somewhat.
Yeah.
So you could, where some of these others are very specific.
Right.
So the grain offering was once again considered a voluntary offering, often for Thanksgiving of first fruits, flour, bread, grain made with olive oil and salt. It's always unleavened or incense.
Right. And if you haven't looked into unleavened stuff, it's important that it's always unleavened because Yah doesn't want any leavening his lump.
That's right.
He wants it all pure.
And another type is peace offering. Once again, considered voluntary. It's fellowship with God, thankfulness, an expression of a vow. And I meant to change this. It's not any animal, but clean animals that he mentions, and without blemish according to an individual's economic status.
So it's not just the higher ups that get this peace relationship with Yah, right?
Right. It was for everybody. And another beautiful. Oh, we're not there yet. But so we got sin. Tell us about the sin offering.
So for the sin offering, right, this was mandatory, and kind of like we said, it was once you realize you've sinned, you bring this off. You're to bring an offering to quote unquote cover it.
Right, and nobody was going to do it for you.
Right. Yeah, no one could do it for you. And then as we look into Hebrews and stuff like that, we find that actually this is a symbol. It doesn't actually cover your sin. It's symbolically covering it, pointing to Messiah. And actually, all the sacrifices point to Messiah. In this case, for the sin offering, right, you'd have a bull for the high priest or the whole congregation. If it was a king, you'd bring a goat. A common person would bring a female goat or a lamb. Poor person would bring a dove, and then a flour offering for very poor people. So, and then every one of these, sacrifices would tie into what Messiah. They're pointing to Messiah, of course.
And then sin and guilt offerings were considered mandatory. So what about the guilt offering?
So this would be a ram or a lamb, and it'd be made by a person who deprived another of his rights or had violated something holy. So then you would be guilty.
Mm-hmm. And something that I find pretty fascinating about this is the concept that all economic levels, he allowed for that. And, the rich typically are going to be like a lamb, and the poor a dove, and the very poor grain offering.
Right.
So, and what were you saying earlier about this universal concept?
Just that it covers everybody. Anyone can come to him. Was there a specific thing?
No, I think that was it. Okay. So, but yeah.
Yeah, just the door's open for anyone to come. And it's not dependent on your status. He's not a respecter of persons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't care if you're rich or poor or whatever. He wants you to do this.
Yeah.
And then we get into a little bit of the salt covenant. And, salt is more than a dry rub, Jake. In Texas, it's a big deal to get your rub right.
I've noticed.
And so...
I've extra salted my rub, and it's, man.
Extra salt in your
tasty.
Rub. Mm. Yeah. So, the whole idea of a salt covenant, it's believed that back in the day, people carried a little pouch of salt. So where's your salt, Jake?
It's in my heart now, man.
Yes. And so they'd carry this little pouch of salt, and I'd have my salt and you'd have your salt, and we'd come into an agreement together, and we'd pour out our salts together, mix them all to get up, and then separate them back. And the point was, you could not undo this. So because it would be like impossible, and who would sit there and pull out every grain of salt and go, oh, that one's yours, this one's mine. It's impossible. They become one.
Right.
So
it's like blood brothers, only the clean version.
Yep. And so it's this perpetual covenant, and and it also just physically it slows down the work of the leaven, but it represents this unbreakable friendship.
Right. So yeah, if you put that in your bread offering, anyone who's made bread, you don't let the salt get into the yeasties. So that would kind of prevent the leavening.
Yeah, which is an interesting property for sure. So so there were some sayings that went with this. Sometimes men ate together and they became friends, and they might say, "There's salt between us."
I never said that in my life.
I think it's a pretty ancient expression.
Oh, okay.
And they might also say, "He has eaten some of my salt," which means he came into my house, he partook of my hospitality, our friendship is cemented. And so probably I would imagine this was said in a negatory way. Like, I guess it could also have been an expression of,
this sounds
yes,
like a
we're
good
buddies.
Thing. Yeah, this sounds like a good thing. You made it sound very, very scary.
I know, but I'm thinking about, I could see some guy that like somebody's wronged him.
You just don't want someone eating your salt.
That's right.
Wait a minute. Uh-huh. You're saying I owe you. This is a way of bringing up that I owe you.
That's right.
Right. I can't get out of it now. Uh-huh. It's been brought up to the world.
But I can think of it, as some old codger that, this guy has wronged him, and he's remembering, no, that guy, he's come in my house and eaten my salt. And now he's wronged me.
Yeah, I guess I could see that, where the eating of the salt meant we're buddies.
Yeah.
And then you went and mess over someone, and it's like, hey, man.
Yeah.
What happened? What's all the salt between us, man?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. But it is kind of interesting. It's definitely not something people say. They don't say this in Texas or Pennsylvania.
We could bring it back.
Maybe we should.
We'll put it in the T-shirt idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. File it away. Don't steal our idea. It's worth millions. So just some basic things about salt. It's a preservative, obviously. It's essential for life. It makes the food better. Flavor enhancer. But can you have too much salt on your food?
Sure can.
Yeah, I've done that.
I've burnt my tongue with salt in muffins. I did salt instead of sugar. I mixed it. This was home ec class.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. That's the way to make an impression in home ec.
Yeah.
Like, oops. And everybody's like, these are good.
Yeah. You needed a lot of water after that.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes to the point.
It does.
Right?
We're going to talk about that. And salt is also used to purify. So all of these things seem to be very biblical in nature.
Right.
Not hard to see those connections. Jake, read this one.
Salt doesn't change. Dissolve it, evaporate it, it all stays the same. So yeah, it's going to maintain its salinity.
Well, I used to do an experiment when I taught this, and I would take salt water and I would talk to the kids, and we would find the mass of the salt, and we'd find the mass of the water, and then we put it together, and I would ask them, if the salt was going to stay the same, and after we boiled it and evaporated it, and and they would sometimes go, there would be less salt, there'd be more salt. So you made a
still in the classroom.
Yes. And so, it was always fascinating to see kids kind of waking up to this principle for the first time, and they're always amazed that there was so much salt, because it seemed to disappear in the clear water, but then it came back.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, it's almost like a resurrection of sorts.
Yes, kind of. Mm-hmm.
So also aids in the fertility of soil. Now, don't tell my old neighbor, but it also will kill their roses.
Mm-hmm. We won't tell your neighbor.
Yeah. aids in fertility of soil. The soil, modern fertilizers, are salt. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's one of the things we use in abundance today. In some places, we've over fertilized the soil, and it's losing its fertility.
Yeah, that's something I found interesting when I found salt in fertilizers. That was kind of a mind bender because I had always thought salt kills stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, salt has been very expensive.
How expensive, Jake?
So expensive. Well, it used to be one of the hottest commodities. I mean, it was everyone on the planet wanted salt.
I'm pretty sure they traded gold for salt.
Yeah.
And people died because like Napoleon and famous people, not him, but seems like soldiers in his army died one time because they didn't have salt.
Well, it's also necessary for life. So, sodium needed to help neurons fire.
So if you have a sodium imbalance, your brain may not work quite right.
Maybe that's what's wrong with us.
Maybe so. So more about the salt covenant can be found in Leviticus 2:13. And every offering of your grain offering you shall season with salt. You shall not allow the salt of the covenant of your God to be lacking from your grain offering. With all your offerings you shall offer salt. So that's a pretty big deal.
Every time. They probably needed a stock of it.
Yeah.
And then here in Numbers 18, kind of more salt covenant talk. All the heave offerings of the holy things, which the children of Israel offer to Yahweh, I have given to you and your sons and daughters with you as an ordinance forever. It is a covenant of salt forever before Yahweh, with you and your descendants with you. How long does this happen?
Forever.
It's
a long time.
Yep.
And then 2 Chronicles 13:5 said, should you not know that the Lord God of Israel gave the dominion over Israel to David forever, to him and his sons by covenant of salt?
So does that, now, sometimes you'll hear forever doesn't really mean forever. It just means for that dispensation or for that time frame. So does David have dominion forever?
The line of David and Yeshua.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's forever.
Yeah. Do you believe so? Oh, I meant to mute this, Jake.
Well, I mean, sometimes you got to hear how the salt is made, man.
I guess so. This is how the salt is made. So what does it mean to be the salt of the earth? Consuming salt makes you thirsty for the living waters, for one thing.
Right.
So, and then
what's the living waters, Matt?
The living water would be Yeshua when he says, I am
the living water. Right. Wasn't a trick question.
And you won't get thirsty if you drink this water, he said.
Right. So the salt of the earth, a couple things. I mean, we kind of touched on what it means to be salty, what salt is and stuff. It's, be a commodity, right? Be something that makes people thirsty for more.
Be in demand.
Be in demand. Be something that is flavorful, be someone to be sought after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
So it means several things, but be salty. Be a salty person.
Be salty. And that's bringing us to the end of week 24.
Vayiqra.
Leviticus 1:5-26. And Jake, any other final thoughts on this?
No, just a lot of things there. And why don't you see how Messiah falls into the different offerings and sacrifices? Mm-hmm. Some are pretty obvious. The sin offering is pretty obvious. But look into that and see kind of how it applies to each one of those. And I think we're going to do a podcast eventually where we kind of go into that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, we talked about that. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's good. Even like the wave offering, the grain offering, and so a lot of people say he was the first fruits offering when he rose. again, and so there's a lot of interesting things to look at for sure there.
Yeah.
So, but as always, we appreciate you stopping by to look, to listen, and we appreciate you giving us a like. We appreciate if you want to just leave us like a shofar emoji. So
Right.
you can rate our show 5 shofars if you would like.
Ooh, 5 shofars.
That would be fine. 5 out of 5, preferably. Yep. So, but just anything like that helps us get the word out. Once again, we're not making money off of this, but we enjoy doing it, and it's kind of a you get the benefit of
our trying to keep track of what we're studying.
That's right. That's basically what this is just our public version of our biblical study that we do. So
yeah. So put comments too. Comments in the comments.
So or questions.
So we can kind of see how this is, affecting people. See if anyone's getting anything out of it. So
yep. And but if you're just checking us out for the first time, Google Sabbath Lounge. You'll find a lot of content out there in different platforms, different topics and subjects. And we do appreciate you stopping by and listening. And this is Matt and
Jake
signing off.